Another code, another message, another secret hidden lore. I mean, what are we missing here? There's all these codes and messages, but nothing revealing the boss's true intentions or giving insight to his plans to take over the world. I mean, there has to be something. We just haven't found it yet. And with the two theorists I typically contact swerving any mentions of the boss when I bring it up, I'm starting to lose hope that we'll ever figure out his plan. Maybe we're looking at this wrong. Maybe if we're gonna try figure out what's gonna happen next, we need to take a step back and learn what really happened before. Before the YouTube channel, before the cloning machine, before Shorts Wars entirely. And theorists, I think we have the things that can help us. The boss has been our main antagonist in Shorts Wars since the beginning, but back then we didn't know much about him. He was an unstoppable force that posed a threat to YouTube and the world as a whole. But that was when he was anonymous. After seeing his face looking like some knockoff anime villain, the mask starts to fall, and he was revealed to be human. Then our only question is why? Why do what he does? Why try take over? Why target the creators? Why are you hiding the full story? While it may seem as though the boss has begun his road to redemption, we'll see how long it lasts when we find out what truly made him this way. But before we do that, please do subscribe. It's the best way to support my channel and helps me make more videos like this one, as well as work on other projects for this channel in the future. So if you could just check to see if you're subscribed, that would be great. Thank you, and back to the video. Over the past week, we've been introduced to the logs by Dr. FD, who we now know as Francis Dave. These logs have started to reveal the true backstory behind this whole thing. Francis was also mentioned before in the Legend video as the mad scientist, until he lost his credentials in the scientist community and was kicked out because of his obsession with the concept of evil twins, thus moving him down from scientist to a family doctor, something he seems to look down upon. Despite working as a family doctor, his experiments didn't stop there. He wanted to build his machine, but he didn't have the proper funding, not for the lab equipment, the facilities, or the test subjects. So he reached out to some morally questionable investors to put their money into his experiments, knowing that if he made a breakthrough, it could make him rich. As for the test subjects, well, it seemed his job as a family doctor finally had an upside. He took a child, a boy specifically, and used him to trial the first version of his machine. At this time, the machine didn't clone the body, it cloned the mind. The doctor had wanted to see if he could transport one mind into another, chasing something that many believed to only be hypothetical: immortality. If he could get this machine to work, he could recreate his own brain and put it into a body that did not age and could last him for centuries. He had to make it work. But the boy's mind broke. The machine hadn't worked, and the scientist begrudgingly made the note, the body can't contain two souls at once, or it begins to crack. Over time, he picked up more kids from the hospital, ones he could easily say didn't make it, only to use them as experiments, lab rats. But no matter how many tweaks he made to the machine, they all broke. Until one day when he went into work, where he managed to meet a couple who had twins, identical twins, two people that looked exactly alike but could live very different lives. This idea had intrigued the scientist. It gave him inspiration for his machine. So he picked up one of the twins and took him, explaining to the parents that he had sadly not made it. Francis even felt as though it was a fair deal. He got his test subject, and they got a son they could love twice as much. So instead of replicating the brain, he focused on remaking the body, making an identical twin. And it worked. The machine had actually worked, and the test subject didn't die. He didn't break, and the scientist had finally achieved his dream. Once the experiment had been successful, the scientist moved on to planning, knowing that with this machine he could take over the world. However, he ran into a slight issue. He had no real use for the boy anymore, the one who made his experiment successful. But he couldn't give him back, he couldn't set the kid free, so what he did was he took him in as a student, someone he could teach his ways and could assist him in his plan. The boy became the scientist's right hand. However, he reflected on what his life could have been, how poorly the scientist treats him, and he grew up to despise the scientist. The scientist realised this and did everything he could to discipline the boy, to make sure that he wouldn't go against him, that he would fear him. But it didn't work. He had realised that the boy was going to kill him one day. He had to think fast, think of a safety precaution, so he uploaded himself to the machine. An AI version of his brain, a copy and pasted into the code. But before he could find a way to place this AI into another body or something, the boy got his revenge. He killed him, not knowing that the scientist's brain lived on inside the machine, sitting there, trapped. Fast forward a bit and the boy takes on a new identity, the boss, wanting to enact the scientist's old plan and use the cloning machine to take over the world, only this time, he'll do it his way. He also wanted to get revenge on those who didn't help him when they could, like his twin brother, Johnny Razor. You see, a few years beforehand, when the boss was around 12, he managed to escape the facility, only for a little bit before the scientists found him again. At the same time, Johnny Razor, also 12, was at a summer camp that was conveniently in the same woods that the underground facility was. The boss saw Johnny and knew that this was his brother. Johnny, on the other hand, had no clue who this person who looked just like him was. They talked for a bit, but eventually Johnny had to leave. The boss felt betrayed that his brother hadn't helped him. He just let him go back to the facility. Johnny had made a new enemy. And this is where Shorts Wars begins. The boss seeking power through YouTube Shorts, threatening the creators, getting back at his brother, reaching out to the investors that the scientists had worked as before about a new VPN project and how they could become shareholders, and finally, using the cloning machine. Although there were some issues with it, it seemed to do its job. Until the last clone, the machine was having difficulty in determining whether or not the clone was a rabbit or a monkey, so it started going haywire. Meanwhile, the scientist was still in the machine, or at least his AI brain was. It'd been sitting there dormant for years, but he could sense that the machine was about to break and he'd be deleted. His research gone. There was only one way out, and that was to hijack the clone of Riggy. The scientist knew the risks, seeing what 2 souls in one body could do to a person, but he had no other option, which led to clone Riggy's body cracking. It also explains why he saved the boss, how he knew to rebuild the cloning machine, and why the name Dave sounded so familiar. To this day, the boss has no clue that his predecessor lives on. In fact, the boss trusts clone Riggy. He is by far the boss's most loyal follower, but all that could change if the truth is revealed. And as of now, clone Riggy, Preston, the pastor man, whatever you want to call him, is giving the instructions to the other clones. In fact, some of the clones haven't even met the boss yet. It would be very easy for Francis Dave to change what the clones must do. While the boss is dealing with the lawsuit, a new enemy may emerge from the shadows. And that's all we've got so far. While this theory may have some holes, some plot points that don't quite make sense, or how sometimes we were really reaching for an explanation, I genuinely think that we have the foundation of a storyline here. Thanks to you guys, my fellow theorists, who help us debunk this over live streams. I also want to shout out my members. You guys have shown your overwhelming support for this channel, and genuinely it's been insane to see how many people out there are willing to support this channel. Especially considering at the beginning of the year, I didn't think I'd be able to reach this many people. You guys showing your overwhelming support does encourage me to make more videos and find out what you guys want to see next. Theorists, we will figure out all of the secrets that Shorts Wars has to hide. We will answer as many questions we can about the series, and we will make sure that team creators win. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!